All right, my friends, welcome to another episode of Trending. Today is Thursday, November 3rd. It's about 9:30 in the morning, and I'm in the studio. Joe's at home holding it down on the east side. Hey, Joe, good morning.
What's up, man?
Good to see you. Your Ted Lasso stash has come every week. We need to do like a time lapse of your mustache coming in. That's what we should do every week.
It may not change much from here. I'm hoping it fills in a little more because in person it still looks like early college, no shave November status.
Love it. All right, we've got a busy day, a lot to get to today. So for those of you joining, if you're kind of new to the show, what we do is we take a handful of the biggest news stories, the biggest trending stories going on in the States today, and we try to kind of take a faith perspective wherever we can. So we're trying something a little bit different, where we kind of just quickly breeze through a couple of them and then do a little bit of a deeper dive on one of the main topics that's going on today. So real quick, Joe, I didn't know this, but today is National Sandwich Day. So happy National Sandwich Day to everybody out there.
Yeah,
I don't know. You should Google it. I'm sure you maybe get a free sandwich or a discounted sandwich, maybe a Subway or someone's doing some deal. So I don't know. Happy Sandwich Day.
I got an email from Jimmy John's. So I haven't opened it yet, but that was like the subject of the email. So it's got to be something. So like, Matt, what is your go-to sandwich? What's the go-to?
Yeah, I'm not really a sandwich guy. Like if I'm doing fast food or something, a sandwich probably is not the first thing I would choose, but I do like Jimmy John's. Of course, Chick-fil-A, tried and true, can't beat Chick-fil-A. I gotta be honest, I had a Popeyes sandwich last week. I had a meeting. We met at Popeyes. Dude, they've got a pretty good chicken sandwich too. So
they do. Like it's very filling. Like it's a good time. So do you suppose that like Joey Tribbiani is the patron saint of the National Sandwich Day?
I think that's a good call, Joey Tribbiani.
Nice, man. That's good.
Okay, well, happy Sandwich Day to you. And if you're watching, and if you find a good deal on sandwiches, why don't you drop it in the comments? Share the wealth. Let's see if we can find any good deals on sandwiches today. So, all right, Sandwich Day. Number 2, Joe, the jackpot is getting out of control. The Powerball is climbing up to 1.5 billion. So I looked at it's been 39 consecutive days without a winner. So the total just keeps growing and growing and growing. 1.5 billion. This is, I think, one of the biggest in history. I think I saw that the biggest ever was 1.586 billion, and that was a few years ago. So we're climbing up on the biggest Powerball ever.
Right.
Someone's going to get a lot of money one of these days.
Yes. And this is like when people who already have a lot of money like that, when they go out and they're like, I'm going to buy $100,000 worth of tickets, and so they up their chances. And I think ironically, like whoever wins this is probably going to be split now. So like if you would have won it a couple of weeks ago, you probably would have been like the solo person at the top with more money. So I guess if one person wins it, then you have this like great dilemma, right? Like, do you do the annuity, the 30-year annuity, or do you do the lump sum? So Matt, put yourself in the shoes of a winner, like you won it. Would you do like the payout for 30 years, or would you like want it all right now? What do you think?
I'd probably take it all right now, but I honestly, I don't even think I'd want to win. Like that's just too much pressure. I don't want that much money. I don't want people to know I have that much money. So I will not be buying a ticket because as nice as it would be, I don't want that much money. I don't want the attention or the pressure that comes with it. So
interesting.
I don't know.
Man.
What would you do?
Man, I would win it. What I would do is I would like get like a beat up car still, like drive that around for the most part, like just try to like throw people off the scent,
Yeah.
So no, I could find some ways to deal with that much money. That's a lot though, dude. Like to put that into consideration. So the person who's the new prime minister in England, wealthy guy, I guess like one of the headlines there is that he is wealthier than like the royal family is. Like he's got more wealth. And they have like $500 million, his family does. Like, so like you would automatically be richer than the prime minister of the UK or England. I mean, that's crazy.
That's
yeah.
insane.
Yeah. Anyways, that's
I can't even fathom that much money. That is a lot of Joey Tribbiani sandwiches right there. You can have many, many Popeyes every day for the rest of your life with that much money. So
yeah, you would, man. It's good.
Crazy. Yeah. We'll see how many more days it goes here, but
yeah, absolutely.
All right, Joe. Well, the number one topic yesterday, the one that I think we'll kind of spend some time on right now is so the past few days, again, I don't know much about this. It's the Day of the Dead. It's a big deal in Mexico and several kind of Latin countries where they celebrate this. Really, most of what I know about this holiday comes from the Disney movie Coco. I've
Yeah,
seen it once,
man.
and
Yes.
that's where most of my knowledge about the Day of the Dead comes from. But it's obviously a big deal in Mexico and Latin American countries. A lot of people kind of celebrate it. So I've got a couple kind of things I'm thinking about, Joe. But what do you know about the Day of the Dead? Do you know much about it?
Yeah, I mean, just a little bit. I mean, Coco is one of the best animated films ever. So if you haven't seen it yet, Trending Land, you need to go watch Coco. Like, make it the weekend thing. Like, we're gonna watch Coco together. It's a great film, and it does narrate a bit of at least the fervor of the Day of the Dead. It tends to land this time of year. It's mainly like a Mexican holiday, and it tends to kind of be in the same, I don't know, essence of All Saints Day, which is the day after Halloween in the church's calendar year. But there seems to be a whole lot more partying and fervor. So like All Saints Day tends to be a day of lowliness where we remember the departed and like grieve and mourn, where the
Mhm.
Day of the Dead is more of like a festive celebration, because like the narrative behind it is that for a day, like the gates of heaven open and the souls of the departed return, and folks entertain their presence among them for a day. And so there's this chance where you can kind of get reunited with people that have gone before you. And so it really just scratches the itch of many people where like you lose a loved one and you wish there was more time, right? You wish you could have settled something, or you just miss them. And so they've built within their social consciousness this awareness and this openness to remember the dead, and that grief doesn't have to be short term, but
Mhm.
it can be dealt with in a long term sense in yearly installments.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, to be honest, if you and I've if we've lost somebody super close to us, like, God forbid you lose like a spouse or a child, and you were anticipating years and years longer with them, like something like this, I could see it being like very helpful, and it gets consoling at some level, I would imagine. And
Mhm.
so, what I like about the film Coco is that it kind of carries this idea of there's just some unfinished business in the family that can be dealt with, in order for people who are alive to move on and to have a more healthy lived experience. And so it does animate this routine, evergreen philosophical quandary that we have, which is like, how do we make peace with those who have passed? And like, how do we grieve productively? How can we square with death in ways that which enriches our lives and doesn't like cast a shadow over our lives? So it's just something that we see it again and again, like this idea of like souls returning, from up there back down to here is typically how it's mentioned. It has its root system in Plutarch and Plato, which shaped a lot of Roman Catholic theology. And so wherever Roman Catholicism went,
Mhm.
this separation of like soul separated from body
Mhm.
is something that we see, that type of is like one of the foundational stones to this type of reality too. So anyways, those are just a couple thoughts about it. I mean, was there something about it that like you thought, oh, that's kind of interesting? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think it just brings up some interesting questions, interesting topics of discussion. Because I think in general, I think most Americans, if we're honest, we're kind of afraid of death. Like we don't understand it. We're afraid. We don't really have this glorification of death like some other cultures do. And again, I don't know much about Day of the Dead, so I don't want to say anything that's not right. But my understanding is it kind of goes beyond just remembering and honoring the dead, but it's almost, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily worshiping, but sometimes there's like prayer or communication with the dead, and that obviously
Yeah.
gets a little weird for Christian faith. So I guess I'd like to hear more about that from you, Joe. Like, where do you, for Christians especially, I guess there is kind of a weird line, right? Like I think it's good to grieve, to remember, to honor, but then there's also this weird fuzzy line where we see people who are, offering gifts to their loved ones who have passed away, or maybe they're praying to them or praying for them, the whole purgatory thing.
Yeah.
I guess where does I guess is that because we're Americans in generally are more afraid we don't really talk about death as much as other cultures, or where is that weird line where we start to get into something that's outside of what is kind of traditional Christianity? You have any thoughts about
Mm.
that?
Yeah, so Roman Catholic theology does have this interesting tether with those in the far beyond. So there is a praying to saints. They're not worshiping saints, but saints are communing with God. And so, much like I would hand you, Matt, a prayer request, what's going on in my life, they feel like there's an openness to hand prayer requests to either loved ones or to patron saints of certain issues. They have like like you and I are in life groups or small groups.
Mhm.
In the Roman Catholic framework, like there's like a sacramental small group, with those who've passed on. And so it would be worth like actually talking to someone who does the Day of the Dead and say, hey,
Mhm.
what do you think is really going on here? Or to watch a service to be able to observe it for ourselves. But I think the heart of it is, you're still connected to this person. I think when a lot of our medium, a lot of books and movies, when it talks about like communicating with the dead, and I think we've talked about this before, what we see is not like the dead are remaining here because they can't let go of their life into the far beyond, but like those of us who are still alive can't let go of them. And so we
Mhm.
try to hold on to them. And so I think there's really a deep down, like the thing behind the thing is, how do we square with grief? And I think in American culture, I think we get awkward around sadness. And so when people are sad, we give them an allowance for it, but we want them to move on. And so we kind of do subtle things if we feel like it's gone on too long, and then maybe more deliberate things. But I think that we find our own unique ways to honor the dead, even in our culture. Even I think it looks different
Yeah.
than that. But I think, at some award shows, they have this the great scroll of remembrance.
Mhm.
The church that I attended and worked in Atlanta, the Sunday after Easter, we would remember those from our membership who passed away. There'd be like a slideshow. And so I think that there are different ways to do that. I started tradition. So I was real close to my grandpa Skillen, and he wore overalls every day because he's a farmer. And
Okay.
so I wear overalls on his birthday in December, like just like a cute thing,
Yeah.
like saying, hey, like we're still connected to these folks. There still is something about them for our lives. And so there are probably healthy ways and unhealthy ways. So when
Mhm.
does it cross over into like unhealth? Like anything that kind of gets in the way of us, like honoring God with our best, I think would be unhealthy, would be unwise. But
Yeah.
I think we can't help ourselves. Like we love people, and when those people pass, for anyone to tell us how to grieve that loss is just unwise too. I think that we've got to find our own way. Grief has its own thing, and so we've got to give people a chance to do that in a way
Mhm.
that's healthy and redemptive, and that helps them honor like this person from their life who's now gone, because that grief might last the rest of their own life, and so I think we got to give people ways to do that and some space to do that.
That's good. I think the other thing with Day of the Dead and maybe Coco especially, because Coco is like a kids movie, right? Like it's a Disney Pixar animated kids movie, but it is like it's skeletons and ghosts. And I think there's this tendency, especially in kind of the traditional, more conservative Christianity, like that kind of thing just feels dark. It feels like
Yeah.
we're not really sure how to handle it. We don't know how to talk to our kids about death, right? And so
Mm,
I think
mm.
especially if you've kind of been in the kind of traditional conservative Christianity, you see this holiday where people are dressed as skeletons and maybe even like celebrating death
Hmm.
feels a little bit weird. So I guess for maybe if you have any parents watching or with that thought in mind, how should we talk to younger people about death? Is it again, we talked about this already, but we don't want to elevate and worship death, but we also don't want to just avoid it and never talk about it. So I guess as we kind of begin to wrap up, anything else you want to mention there?
Man, that's a fantastic question. So I would still say, like, I think for those who are approaching death, like how do you know, right? I mean, did
Yeah.
you receive it in a fortune cookie? I don't know, but like when you can see the right, like whenever I'm brought in a ministry moment for someone who seems to be towards the end of their life or they're sorting out their life, I say a few things. I say, are you at peace with God? Are you at peace with all other people to the best of your ability? And then can you like do one last grand gesture
Mm.
to leave a mark and a legacy for those who are behind you? So on that end, I say, hey, like that as you're approaching death, like that would be my prescription from you. I think for those of us who experience loss, for whatever reason, ancients, they felt in their mind the best way to assimilate people into their final resting place, they put them in the ground, right? There's other ways of doing it. Other cultures have, like, they do cremation and stuff. And I'm not here to like officiate how anybody does their end of life observance or whatever. This idea of like being put into the soil, it's got a neat little metaphor of enriching the soil for new things to grow in the wake of a passing. And so what I tend to do with those who lose a loved one is to say, we all live past our expiration dates. We really do. And this loved one in your life has enriched your life in their life with you, but also in their passing, they can still. So what will you carry with you from their life? Because it will continue to enrich your life. And then for those who need consoling, boy, I would love to like give some, fine tooth pinpoint description of what a loved one is experiencing on the other side. But the New Testament doesn't share as much about that as we would like. I think Christian preaching maybe fills in the gaps more. And maybe that's in order to comfort people within the faith or whatever. But what Paul says in Philippians chapter 1 is that if he dies, he goes to be with the Lord. That's what we know. And there is going to be a restoration of all things, a resurrection of the dead. There's going to be an entrance into the new heavens and new earth, according to the New Testament. And so I think what we could tell one another when we have a Christian loved one who's passed is to say, hey, in some way we can let go of the anxiety over their life, because now that they're with the Lord, and they couldn't be with anyone better than with the Lord. And so that's what I would say. And I think leaving a lot of it to the mystery of it might be helpful, because I don't know. I think of something that Jamar Tisby, who is a Christian author and thinker, he was talking to a non-Christian, and he asked the question, like, what do you think of Christians? And this non-Christian said, I get the impression that these people don't have any questions. And that was like a bothersome thing. And something as mysterious as death, I think that we can allow our words to be few. We can say some things for sure. That God's in control of all things. He holds us and all things together. Those who die in the Lord join the Lord, and they're at rest there. And God brings consolation and comfort for us now, because we share in the sufferings of Christ now. And so it's also through Christ our comfort overflows, Paul says in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, in one of the lowest points of his ministry, as he's reflecting on his own dark experience. He says, also through Christ, our comfort overflows. And I don't know, I've lost loved ones, maybe not as close as some others, but like, I have felt like in those moments, that's enough to know that they're with the Lord. And nothing is too difficult for him. And so I think that we can, I think that's good enough for our kids to say, hey, our loved one is with him there. And we rejoice that our granddad or grandmom or uncle, our best friend or next door neighbor, they have received the reward of their faith, which is the salvation of their souls. Like, I think all that is good news. And that doesn't have to try to take away the sting of death, like the sadness and the grief that accompanies such a monumental event like somebody passing. Yeah,
that's all really good. I think you're right that I think as Americans especially, we like certainty, right? We like clear answers. We like black and white thinking. And I mean, no one knows what's on the other side of death. Like, no one knows. We have, obviously, as Christians, we have pretty strong beliefs about what we believe happens, but like no one except for Jesus has been able to come back and tell us about it. So I think we're uncomfortable with the uncertainty. I think you're right. Also, what you said earlier, that we're uncomfortable with sadness. We're uncomfortable with grief. But I think having these conversations about death is good for our perspective too, right? First of all, it forces us to ask big questions, which I think is important, worthwhile, and gives you perspective when things end. Your time matters, right? So yeah. Good thoughts there, man. I appreciate you sharing that.
And what I've seen is around death, there's a great potential of great unity, of great care for one another. And I've also seen it like tear people, families apart. And so I would just say, what is a sign that we're a Christian community is that something even as tragic, sometimes unexpected as death, that it can bring people together and allow loving kindness to compound and grow. is a sign that a gracious God is among us too. So yeah, so treat one another kindly when we go through seasons of grief because of someone dying.
Yep, that's good.
Yeah.
I think every week we end up coming back around to be kind. That should be what's trending today. Kindness is trending today and every other day. I like it. So
Yeah, man.
all right, Joe. Well, thanks for your thoughts. That was a good discussion today. As always, we'd love to have you join us on Sunday. If you're around Wichita, you can check us out in person or online, or we'll be back here next Thursday as always. So anything to close out with, Joe?
No, man, I think it's all square. We're doing a new sermon series starting this Sunday on gratitude, going to kind of get into Thanksgiving and gratitude. So we hope that you check it out because I think we all could use a little more gratitude and thankfulness in our lives. And so I'm here for it. And so I'm looking forward to that teaching series.
Yeah, Brent and you, and I guess our teaching team is very wisely where we wrapped up the stress series and we're ending with gratitude. A great way to avoid stress is to be grateful. Yeah. And now we're going to talk about gratitude for a couple of weeks. So that's good. I'm looking forward to that. So,
yep, absolutely.
All right. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, great weekend, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Yep.